All right, everybody. So I woke up this morning and it's Memorial Day as I say this here in the US, and I feel like I don't have a plan with my reading, and I love having a plan. So I had this idea for a video that I'm recording now, which is watching two of my old videos about series that I want to read, and both kind of seeing how well I've done in actually reading those books and if I've read them, and maybe some basic thoughts on those series, but also which of those I still haven't read and if I want to read them. Kind of like a review of myself, overview, see how I've done reading with goals, and maybe I'll get some series in here I forgot. So let's start out with this video, series I want to read and finish in 2022. I'm not going to show the whole video. I'll just kind of do some fast reactions, or this is going to be way too long. Here we go. Series that I want to read and finish. I'm also taking notes. In this year, 2020. First up, one of my big things that I want to do is finish The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. First up, Robin Hobb finished Realm of the Elderlings. One of my favorite series of all time. Absolutely incredible series. Would recommend to everybody. My third favorite fantasy books of all time, only behind Lord of the Rings and Malazan. So, huge recommendation if you haven't read Robin Hobb. This series has gotten the Tamir Triad. There we go. All right, so I read Lynn Flelling's Bone Doll's Twin, which is the first of the Tamir Triad, and did not like it. I DNF'd it halfway through, I'm sorry to say. I just could not get going in that series. But I DNF'd after like 400 pages, I think. I was even like, I could feel getting towards the third act and just did not care. I already gave them away, and I'm not going to read them. So no Tamir Triad retry for me yet. The Tamir Triad. Ever. Dan Simmons'
Oh my god. I'm so glad that I did. Like Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion, the first two books.
BookTube right now. I think probably, well, for me, it was Books with Brittany. Books with Brittany that started
best sci-fi
me wanting to read
outside of Dune. I think I've read.
Much and
that might be too big. I don't know, but it's
on top of the.
You need to read Hyperion if you haven't read Hyperion. Thank you. Apparently, Books with Brittany is the one who first got me onto that. I forgot about that before watching this video. Thank you, Brittany, for that experience, because Hyperion's great.
In the same vein, I've heard from many people that I need to read Book of the New Sun.
Oh,
by Gene Wolfe.
I still have not read Book of the New Sun. This is a good call. This is probably going to be something that would,
even though this is
people would be interested in me reading, and I haven't read. I have the book of the New Sun. I'm writing that down on the list of ones that I need to read.
For good things about this, but I don't know anything about it. I'm sort of purposely doing that, so I'm not even going to read the back. Next up is a book series that I've been wanting to read for a long time, but I've also been intimidated by. That is N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy.
Oh no. This is going to be a Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Green Day reference.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
N.K. Jemisin, in the 5th season, did not work for me. I'm so sorry. I read the first book, the 5th season. It was okay. It wasn't a DNF. I finished it, especially the end was a good page turner, but for the most part, did not like it, did not continue to book 2, felt like I got what I wanted out of it, getting the feel, and just didn't, I'm sorry, 5th season, Broken Earth trilogy didn't work for me.
And I have never read N.K. Jemisin, so I'm kind of nervous that I'm going to be left out of the party. I don't know why. I'm sure it's going to be great. Angela, especially at Literature Science Alliance, has constantly talked to me about needing
Angela,
to read
you let me down here, but
so
still, great booktuber. Check out Angela if you haven't.
Also a train that I'm getting on very last minute, so to speak. Actually, this already started. One of the series, I don't have it on this list, that I have started is the Greenbone Saga. Jade City, Jade War, and
Greenbone Saga is so good.
Which is fantastic. I don't know why I waited so long to get in on it, but I did. But I love it. Something else that I waited a long time to get on is the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft.
I have not read the Books of Babel yet, and I think I have them. Books of Babel. That was, guys, do you remember how big the Books of Babel, Josiah Bancroft, was during the pandemic? Like, this video, I think, was, 2022, so we're still in the midst of the pandemic here. Peak BookTube for me, where, like, we were getting our community from just BookTube online, at least speaking for myself. Everyone was talking about that. I remember Alan, I think, at Library of Alexandria being like a huge champion of it, but it was everywhere. Everyone had to read it. Everyone had to give it a try. And it's a really it seems like a very weird, unique fantasy book. So it's not like classic fantasy, and it's referencing a lot of classics and a lot of Dante and the Odyssey, Homer, those sort of classics. Interestingly, like since then, I feel like maybe it was because Piranesi became such a phenomenon that had a similar feel as far as like the classic throwback. Maybe that took a lot of momentum from Bancroft, but I have not seen anything about this in a long time. Let me know if there's like I'm missing something and there's like a Bancroft resurgence, but I think that would be interesting. It always felt like a series that I would be interested in. I don't think it was in the top 100 r/Reddit books, so I think it's just kind of disappeared. Actually, let's just check this out. What is this video for, if not for tangents and me struggling with my allergies today? Okay, so it's just out of the top 100, 105, right next to Watership Down, which actually is another book that I own that I haven't watched in a while. That's interesting. Okay, so it's 105 still up there. This one I really would like people in the comments let me know if I should read this or prioritize this.
Another series that I want to pick up is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And I do want to do this earlier in the...
All right, so Poppy Kuang. Goodness gracious. It is early. That's my, this is my first cup of coffee. Okay, that's why it's a little bumpy here at the start. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I still haven't gotten on because there was such a divided booktube again back in the day on this that I never brought myself to read it. But since then, I have read Babel by R.F. Kuang that I thought was excellent. One of my favorite books in a long time, surprise reads that I absolutely loved. I loved the linguistics element of R.F. Kuang, and it was definitely something different in the fantasy genre. I've not read Yellowface, which is her first foray into like contemporary fiction, I believe. It makes me want to revisit this. Again, I know that BookTube is quite divided, but also it seems like the Poppy War has just disappeared off of the map in a lot of these discussions, at least as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth. It's not going to make my list, but maybe I'll just put like an asterisk up here. Poppy War, because I do own those. I think I have the ebooks.
Other end of the spectrum of books series that I want to read and finish this year. This is a classic series. Admission, I've never read a Forgotten Realms book at all.
Oh.
And so I feel like to have a well-rounded fantasy knowledge, I need to at least read some series, or at least one. The one I selected after looking at a bunch of stuff is the Dark Elf trilogy.
Okay. Guys, I did try the Dark Elf trilogy. Ooh, boy, oh boy. We were starved for good fantasy back in like the 80s or whenever that book was written. It just, even more so than like David Eddings, like felt just so vanilla, cardboard. Like, I don't want to be too mean because like obviously this is so important to the fantasy genre, where it is and how people were motivated, but like it's kind of all that I don't like about certain kinds of fantasy. Like so surface level and just like this could be cool, and I don't know how to. I got like 50 pages into the first Dark Elf trilogy book, like Homeland or Exile or something like that, and just like it just washed over me in a bad way. Like,
and finally, I left this for last so I would just leave you guys hanging. My Malazan fans have probably been wondering why there's been a lack of Malazan, and it's simply because I've been reading other stuff, but I'm ready to get back into the world this year, and I want to finish off all the available books that I can, except for Carcanus. I've said before I'm going to wait till that third book is like ready to come so I can just go through Carcanus quickly, or not quickly, but like, one after.
Side note, I know Steve Erickson that you're writing, this other series now, and the second one in the God Is Not Willing trilogy is coming out, the Witness trilogy, which is very exciting, but I really want that Carcanus book to be done so that I can read that trilogy. It's been looking at me on the shelf for like 5 years now, and I really want it. I know that's a whole publisher thing. That's not a Steve Erickson thing. They wanted something a little bit more marketable than Carcanus, which is a little bit more sort of existential and philosophical, but man, do I want to read that book. Please, Erickson, let's put it out soon.
I need to finish my Esselmont books, which means I need to get back on the novels of the Malazan Empire. Stonewielder is up next.
All right, guys. I have not been excited about getting back to the Ian Esselmont Malazan books, which I do feel bad about because I love the world of Malazan. I just have not read an Esselmont book that I liked. That's not true. Night of Knives was fine. But even by the end of that very short book, I was like, okay. And Return of the Crimson Guard, I really didn't like. Just thought was all the negatives of Malazan without any of the positives. Kyle was not a huge person that I was drawn to, and the story wasn't told in the way that I was excited about. And then I think I started Stone Wielder and was just like, I can't do this again. And so I haven't gone back, which is so frustrating. It's a world I love so much. Maybe what I need to do is just like watch a bunch of reviews of Malazan to like get back in my headspace and just like go for it again. So Malazan books I'll put there. I'm sure people who watch this channel will want me to read the Malazan books, but just being honest, that's where I'm at.
I also need to read through the Paths to Ascendancy.
Maybe I should start with just the
a lot
Paths
of
to
people
Ascending
told me, including
books.
Philip Chase, is
Maybe
their
that's what I'll do.
favorite. I'm excited to get going on those. And that is
My nails look good.
12,
Should I paint my nails
I think
again?
it's
It's hard when
12.
you're a public official.
I think that's the
unfortunately.
12 series that I want to start and finish in 2022.
All right, end of the first video. I'm getting more coffee. All right, so this was recorded 4 years ago. So this is back in 2021. These are like the old school BookTube days when I was doing the best that I have done on BookTube. It's also so skinny. I was losing a lot of weight at the beginning of the pandemic. But let's see. 25 fantasy series I want to read.
Video, 'cause I think it's a somewhat unique Kings of the
Oh,
Wild.
the band
Wild
series,
spelled
Nicholas
with
Ames. I just have never had an interest. Every review I've seen that, even of the glowing reviews, talk about how like it's a simple and just like fun story. Yeah, it's just like simple, good action, and that's just like not going to draw me. Don't want to spend time reading that when I could be reading other things right now. So not really drawn to that.
This will come as a shock to no one, but the Ian Esselmont books on the Malazan Empire. He has two separate series right now that he's working on.
I've already talked about this, but
the
I'm holding The
novels
Return of the Crimson Guard, which I
Malazan
read.
Empire series, as well as the Path to Ascendancy. If you don't know, number 3, The Last King of Austin Ard. By
That's a good. I don't have
Williams.
those, but the
So,
new
Cat
Austin
Williams,
Ard
I feel
books
like, is a
would be a really interesting read because it's been a long time since I read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which is a great trilogy of classic so-called fantasy, and I hear the new one's pretty good, and I think it's almost done. So maybe I should give The Last King of Ostenard a read.
It's a War of the Flowers book is also another fantasy that I really want to get into because I really like his readings.
I read War of the Flowers, and a really fantastic standalone. Like when I talk about standalone, I generally talk about Guy Gabriel Kay, which may be on this video later, who does great standalone. And this book by Tad Williams, War of the Flowers. Like those are some of the ones that immediately jumped to mind as great standalones.
Is the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie.
All right, so Joe Abercrombie is like taking over the BookTube fantasy space, and I have always been a little lukewarm on Abercrombie. I read the First Law trilogy, and I read, what's the name of the Revenge? Best Served Cold, which actually is my favorite Abercrombie to date, and then tried The Heroes and just couldn't get into it. Maybe I need to get into the Age of Madness trilogy now that it's finished and people say they love it so much. I'll have to read some summaries of First Law because I forget, but I'm sure I can find that on the wiki. But that's a good call. I don't own those, which is a slight strike against it because I want to kind of get through some books I own, but that's a good reminder.
Number 5, Jade City or Jade War. I don't remember the actual name of the series, but the one by Fonda Lee. This has gotten a...
So glad I read this trilogy. I have reviews of all of them, I believe, up on my channel. You can go check out. This is now my top 10 fantasy of all time. I'm due for a reread. The Jade City series is so good. I actually don't know what the name of the actual trilogy is, but these are so worth reading and so phenomenal if you haven't. Absolutely. Another series that kind of has faded from BookTube, and it really shouldn't. Great books.
Trilogy. Or I think what it's officially called is the Dark Elf
Trilogy. I already talked about that.
Follows,
Oof, not going to get back into that.
By R.A. 7, another classic series that I've never read, The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks.
Oh.
This is in the tradition...
I read Sword of Shannara, the first one, and then it was fine. It was enjoyable, some silly characters, some fun characters, interesting world. But quickly it ran out of steam for me. I read Elfstones of Shannara, the second book, and just was like, blah. I could see why the first one was such a hit. And Terry Brooks, I think, is actually quite a good writer, especially compared to like R.A. Salvador. I think Terry Brooks is like a cut above for sure. But oh, there wasn't the juice to keep going, and it was going over tired tropes, and it kind of helped me understand Wheel of Time better as far as like really taking what was available and just really elevating it in almost every way. But Sword of Shannara, at least the first one, I think is like a worthwhile read. It's pretty short, maybe like 350 pages if I remember correctly, of like classic, throwback fantasy.
Number 8, this is going back to newer series, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm
Poppy War on here again.
A lot of different
Already
reasons.
said that's
First
written
off,
down.
it's written. 9 is the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. I know is a hugely popular series.
Do you guys remember The Lightbringer by Brent Weeks? I feel like that has truly been memory hold. Like, I'm sure they have dedicated fans on here, but I think for the most part, once that final book came out and people didn't love it, I think some people liked it, some people didn't, but like just disappeared. And for me especially, a lot of folks say this is sort of in the Brandon Sanderson tradition, but not as good as Brandon Sanderson. Like this like color-based magic is so cool, and so they really like it and finding out the intricacies of it. And that is never what has excited me in fantasy. And all other elements I've heard of this story are not as good, and in some ways kind of silly or frustrating, depending on who you talk to. So this has completely left my radar. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think I will be reading Lightbringer. And I think the fact that it has mostly disappeared is a reflection maybe of that.
Tawny Man trilogy, and number
Tawny Man
10,
trilogy is great.
and and number 10
incredible.
A is going to be the Rain Wild Chronicles.
Rain
and
Wild
then
is
10B
like
is going
the
to
least
be
of
the
a
Fits
great
in the
series,
Fool
but still
trilogy.
fantastic. And
so-
Fits in the Fool,
Again, I'm just straight up cheating there. To be
tremendous.
honest. So that
I mean, Realm of the
25 would be a nice
Underlings,
round.
Realm of the Underlings, I've said again and again. So good.
Number 12 is a series I don't actually know a whole lot about, except I was recommended it a lot by Alan at the Library of Alexandria, and that is the Great Coats series by...
All right. Does anyone else like the Great Coats? Like, tell me for real. I don't think I will like them. But someone out there, tell me if I'm wrong, if Alan is right, and these are like incredible books, but never really been drawn to them, to be completely honest.
13. This is probably one of the most recommended series to me that I haven't touched at all, and that is Discworld by Sir Terry Pratchett.
Discworld!
He's been knighted.
If you didn't see it, I started Discworld. My first one is Mort by Terry Pratchett. Started with the Death Trilogy. I'm currently reading the second one, which is Soul Music, I think. Or is that the final one? The final one, Soul, this one is Reaper Man. Yeah, so I'm reading Reaper Man. I will read Soul Music, and I'll give a review of that whole trilogy once I'm done. It probably won't do well because no one watches Discworld reviews, which is really frustrating. I am in Discworld, and I'm excited to do it. All right, everybody. So apparently my stupid computer stopped recording at like the 30-minute mark. So the next couple videos, you're just going to have to watch my reaction and not the video themselves, because I'm going to be honest, it's way too much editing for me to just intercut from the video itself. But I think you'll still get the idea. I'll put some stuff to help you follow along. And that is the Swans War series by Sean Russell.
Oh, I have these Sean Russell books, The Swans War. I'm going to put that down.
16, The Faithful and the Fallen, the first book of which is Malice by John Gwynne.
Okay, so I've gone back and forth. I read one John Gwynne, the one with the big monsters on the front, and it was okay. And I've kind of gone back and forth about The Faithful and the Fallen because people like it so much, and I own them. Someone gifted them to me a long time ago. And so I actually had Malice, and I was just like, I brought it with me on a trip. And since then, I cannot find Malice. So I have Valor, Ruin, and Wrath just sitting on a shelf. And I don't have the first one. And I'm already not super motivated because my previous experience with John Gwynne, just not really my style. But I have them. They're so big. I don't know. I'm very torn on this series. Someone direct me.
17, The Moontide Quartet by David Hare, or maybe
Yes!
David Hare.
Yes, young Andy. You do want to read that. David Hare's Moontide Quartet. This is a book that not enough people on BookTube have read. Moontide Quartet by David Hare is incredible, unique. creative, finished, which is huge. More people need to read Moontide Quartet. Honestly, if like that was a question in like a book tag video or something, like what's the most unsung book on BookTube you would recommend people to read, it would be Moontide Quartet. I have reviews on the series on the page recently. Watch them, and you should definitely read these books.
Number 18 is The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I have heard from a lot of people that this is the closest thing to a...
We're getting some gold here. Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty is another fantastic read, and would again go in that category I just said of that books people don't talk about enough that people should read. Now, it has gotten a lot more coverage that certainly the Moontide Quartet, which is why I said that I would say Moontide Quartet first. But if you haven't read Grace of Kings, the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty, please do so. It is wonderful and really unlike any high fantasy you have read before, but in a really, really good way. It's a much more sort of oral history style of telling a story. Moves quickly and then moves slowly. Gives like overarching views of an entire struggle. It's so good. I need to give it another read, but Grace of Kings is absolutely one of my favorite like books, just the book itself, and overall the series is wonderful.
In another era of our history, and that is the Powder Mage Trilogy by Brian McClellan. This is...
Powder Mage for me was a dud. I know lots of people like gunpowder fantasy. I've never read a gunpowder fantasy that I liked. Most people say this is the best version of it, and I just think it was so flat. It was like all the stuff I don't like about Brandon Sanderson without any of the good stuff. Like one time I think there's like battles with like millions of people on both sides, which is just nuts at this period. This was a real dud for me.
First up, The Witcher series. I actually haven't read The Witcher, which I think...
So only 2 claps, because the first 2 books of The Witcher are tremendous. Some of the best fantasy you will read, period, and full stop. So good. And of course, The Witcher 3 is, I think, the best video game of all time, at least in the conversation. So absolutely worth it in those 2 senses. But after that, the series really kind of dips off, and you can tell Sapkowski doesn't really know. Well, I think he knows where he's going. I just don't like where he goes with it. I think mostly silly. I think he mistaked the reflection in the lake for the stars themselves, or whatever he keeps saying it all over and over. I have reviews of all of those. You can see how like pumped I am about the first couple, and then how quickly I fall to the ground. And that's why Witcher is not going to be in any top 10 lists. But the first 2 are incredible, and you should read.
22, The Gentleman Bastards Trilogy.
This is fun. This is getting a good, broad swath of reading of like really big like victories of like things I've read and loved, and things that I read and just like... Gentleman Bastards I really despised, honestly. The Lives of Locke Lamora I thought was too cute by half. The economic angle of the plot made absolutely no sense. And because of some really huge plot mistakes and missteps and world building missteps, like I could not get invested in the book, and felt very like silly at the end. Like I was eye rolling at it, not like the writing itself, but I mean like the actual like story and how it's resolved, and how Locke actually like defeats the villain. What is it called when you post bad reviews on BookTop? Boy, I'm rusty. Can you tell the people? What is it called when you have a bad review? I don't know. You should figure it out. Roast review? That's not it. Rage review? I don't remember. I didn't like the book. You can watch the review, and I go into detail, even with spoilers, about why I think it's bad.
23 is The Wizard of Earthsea Trilogy by Ursula K. Le Guin.
So I enjoyed the first book, Wizard of Earthsea. I thought it was very interesting. And actually the closest analog, like writing style to A Wizard of Earthsea for me is The Chronicles of Narnia. And I kind of liked that throwback, reminding me of my childhood, books that I would, those Narnia books I read a lot as a kid. And so that was fun with Ursula K. Le Guin. But I didn't get by the second book, The Tomb for Antuan or something like that. It was good. I finished it. It was interesting, but I never had the desire to go back to Wizard of Earthsea, to be honest. So like middling, I would say for those. I recently did read my first science fiction of Ursula K. Le Guin. I like that much more, Left Hand of Darkness. Review coming soon.
Fourth and second to last series that I'm very excited to read is the R. Scott Baker, The Prince of Nothing trilogy.
Prince of Nothing. Prince of Nothing I should definitely put on the list. I have those all, and a lot of fans of Malazan really like R. Scott Baker. I think he's also a Canadian writer, just kind of, the Canadian connection between Erickson and Baker. But I haven't read it yet, so I should have put those on the list.
Glenn Cook's The Black Company.
Oh.
Military.
So I read the Books of the South, the first 3 or the first 6 of The Black Company, and I liked them. I wasn't drawn to continue past that because there's so many of them, but I did think it was quite an interesting read, and I could absolutely see the first inspirations for the Malazan Marines in The Black Company, and I thought that was quite good. In fact, that was my favorite part of the books. Good. I would recommend them to people who like Erickson and Abercrombie. They're different. They are more challenging because the main plot is really kept from you because you're really focusing with just the soldiers for the most part. But a lot of great personalities, and I certainly think they're worth reading, especially if you're in sort of that more broader, grim, dark category like you enjoy. All right, so let's see books across these 2 videos that I still am interested in reading that I have not yet, and a lot of these I own, so I need to get rid of them. Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. Books of Babel, Josiah Bancroft. The Malazan books by Ian Esselmont that I haven't read, that's the Paths to Ascendancy and the other novels of the Malazan Empire. The new series Last King of Ostenard by Tad Williams. Joe Abercrombie's Age of Madness trilogy. The Swan War by Sean Russell, and then the Prince of Nothing trilogy by R. Scott Baker. Those are the ones that I've seen, and there's an asterisk for Poppy War as well, kind of on the edge there. So which of those books do you think would be interesting for me to do? Which of them should I put high up? Which would you like me to read most this summer? I'm really looking to organize kind of like what I need to read this summer, so let me know.